All right, so the question is, what's the best way to commercialize great ideas coming out of research, coming out of a lab? I think a big part of it really is focused on the fact of which problem you're solving. I spent a lot of time in the healthcare sector, and the key in healthcare is, what is the unmet clinical need? What is the problem that a particular patient, a particular population is having? And then why is your idea relevant to solve that problem? In the healthcare space, you also have to be cognizant of what's the current treatment today, what is currently happening. How is your invention going to disrupt that, or is it incremental? Do you understand basically, what the regulatory path is? Because that's a criticality in the healthcare sector. You need to understand what the Food and Drug Administration is going to put in place from a regulatory standpoint so you can get advanced. You also need to understand, if a lot of the work you did in the research lab was done with animal models, mouse models, then the key is, are those good models? Does that work likely going to translate to a human condition? Is there an opportunity to basically understand what you need to do preclinically to further validate your research and go from it being a science project to it being really something that has commercial viability? One of the real critical areas is also in the intellectual property area. Is your idea, is your invention, is it novel? Does it meet the tests of patentability? Can you put a patent disclosure out there? Maybe you can work with your institution through their tech transfer licensing folks. You can get a provisional patent there. What is the tech transfer licensing office? Find some great mentors. Find some alumni that have been successful entrepreneurs and see if you can enlist them to be an advisor, to be a mentor. So the key is you want to be able to get advice and counsel from people that basically have done it, and then you can leverage what they've learned in the patent landscape. You understand the problem you're solving. You want to make sure you understand the competitive landscape. You want to make sure you understand what is likely to be needed to take that opportunity or idea you have to the point where it is then presumably fundable or backable. Or can you get SBIR money? Can you get STTIR money? Can you get grant money? What is it that you can do to take your concept, idea, creativity and start to basically de-risk it, start to show that it in fact has viability as a product, as a service, as a company, and then at some point in time you're going to have to decide, do you leave academia and go with that opportunity and become an entrepreneur and basically try to create your own destiny, or you might say, look, I love academia, I want to keep doing what I'm doing. Because what you're doing in healthcare may be different if you're in software, may be different if you're in the tech field, may be different if you're in another particular discipline, nanomaterials or whatever. But you want to get people that have domain expertise, whether they're venture capitalists, whether they're companies, whether they're angel investors. They're not going to invest in something that doesn't have intellectual property associated with it, whether it's a patent, whether it's a copyright. But the key is you have to have something that is yours. And this is where a lot of researchers need to be careful about publishing papers. Because if you're publishing something before you've put IP around it, you may be putting that into the public domain and be fastidious about the fact that, hey, I believe in this, I want it to happen. And then I think in addition to basically getting some good, I guess I'd say, research done in terms of business research, entrepreneurial research, but I also think it's important to find a handful of mentors, find people that are in your particular field, discipline, people that maybe are associated with the university that want to give back, they're alumni, they want to be helpful, and they can help, give you insights. They can give you, because you can read about them, you can study them, but nothing like having someone who's basically gone through a successful process, and they can kind of tell you, the little subtleties that are important. They can tell you, what's the best way to really take a novel idea and get a SBIR grant, because sometimes, you got to make sure that you're not writing a traditional academic grant, you're writing an SBIR grant. It has to have some commercial value. You have to explain, what the economic benefits are, not just the academic benefits. I think the other part of it, again, if you're in the healthcare field, you better be knowledgeable about the regulatory process. You better be knowledgeable about reimbursement. You better understand how doctors, clinicians behave, how do payers behave, how do consumers think about a particular disease condition. You know, if you're in the tech space, obviously a lot of successful companies, you want to create the next Facebook, you know. The real key is, you know, where's there a friction point? Where are people looking for something that's going to enable their lives, change what they're doing? And again, you know, there's lots of those ideas out there, and I think in that case, those ideas don't have the regulatory issues. So in some ways, you could argue it's a little bit easier if you're in the tech, software, Internet of Things space outside of healthcare, because healthcare is a regulated industry. So having said that, you know, that's where we spend 20% of our GDP in this country on healthcare. So it's a big part of where the money is, and it's a big part of where, you know, we're trying to solve problems. So, so my idea is essentially reach out to people that can be helpful. And again, I think there's a lot of people out there. They love to work with, you know, young researchers, academic researchers, and you know, they're happy to give you some of their time and to give you their advice and give you insights, and maybe they can open doors. They might say, hey, you want to talk to this person, or you know what, here's some people that might have some grant money to help you get further along. Here's someone. So it's all about networking, things going on in the community, and make sure that you know, you have you know, you're reaching out to folks. The other part of it is to make sure what people call the elevator pitch. Can you articulate what your idea, concept, what you're trying to do in you know, a succinct 30-second, 1-minute pitch, or what it's going to do, or how you've been able to do X, Y, and Z in a lab standpoint, but now it needs to go to the next step. The other key is make sure you've got a clear understanding so you can explain something that may be very, very technical, but you may need to make sure it's understandable to lay people that could be helpful, but you know, they want to make sure they actually understand and appreciate what you're doing, not just thinking, you know, this is some interesting science project and it's always going to be a science project. I would say, you know, look, the world's evolving pretty rapidly, and I think the key is if one's looking for a job, I mean, if you're, you know, in your first years, where are those needs? What are those companies doing? And if you look at, again, I'll use healthcare for an example. I mean, companies that are in the device space, so they're making medical products, you know, internet enabled. So all of a sudden you have devices that have feedback loops. You have devices that are basically providing companies are scrambling to try to find software companies, engineers, people that understand how to take a product that was doing one function, now you want it to be smart. You want it to be providing feedback. You want it to be providing insights as to how that particular patient's care plan should be optimized. So, you know, so I think the key is it varies by industry, but you really want to understand, you know, where are those companies, you know, going. And in fact, the other key is to, again, with a lot of these social events that take place in this town and elsewhere, you know, find ways to basically talk to people at Biogen, talk to people at Vertex, talk to people at whatever industry or area that you're interested in, and ask them those questions. In other words, people are happy to tell you, you know, hey, here's some of our critical areas, you know, here's where we're looking to take our company. You know, if we're in the biotech space, maybe we're looking at nanomaterials, if we get implants without xenotransplant risks. So I think it's all about, you know, where are there significant unmet needs, where are there problems, and you want to make sure that if you're looking to join innovative companies, you know, talk to people that work there, talk to people that used to work there, talk to people that know someone there, and again, my feeling is just do your homework and get socially connected so that you have one leg up, I think is key.